after I went through my pregnancy and my delivery that was pretty intense and scary, that's when I was like, well, if I'm having this happen and I'm, not able to address the weight on my own, maybe surgery is the answer. And I looked around online on like Instagram mainly. I found accounts of girls who were closer to my age who were able to see, their success stories with weight loss surgery. And that's what propelled me to say, hey, it could work for me. It's not just for, people in their 50s and 60s. It can work for people my age. My poor body image. And I started realizing why I viewed myself the way I did and why I had such a poor body image, especially from that environment, like I was saying. And it was like that healing process of like one by one taking down like the core problems that were feeding into like my depression. And it's crazy because it's like after I was able to start feeling better physically, that's when it was like, okay, well, I got down the checklist and now my weight's not an issue. Why am I still
Mm-hmm.
upset? And so I think that's when it was like, oh, it's not because I'm fat. It's like being fat is not an issue, and that's not why I'm depressed, and that's not a problem. It's just, that perception that had been placed on me. Even the process to have the surgery, at least where I went, they had a psychiatric evaluation, and they basically like ask like, well, what have you tried, and like, are you prepared for like the changes in your diet you have to make, because you have to basically learn a new way to eat
Mm-hmm.
because you've altered your stomach. uh, and I took it very seriously because I don't like surgery. Like it wasn't a quick
Mm-hmm.
decision for me. Like it's a lot of healing, and people have that idea that weight loss surgery is the quick fix and it's the easy way, and that is obnoxious to me because I'm like, what's easy about like surgically altering an organ of your body and then relearning how to live with that? I don't feel like that's easy for anybody. I was like, this is my like last chance. Like I knew it wasn't, but I was treating it like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going into this saying, I've got to make this work because this is such a major thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like knew what I needed, and I knew that it could work. And I think that hope made me more dedicated after especially seeing people that I could relate to more on Instagram. And that's why I started my Instagram, is because seeing other girls my age was really what drove me to be so dedicated to it, because I was like, this can work
Mm-hmm.
if you do the work. My major key to success was you are cleared for exercise 6 weeks after surgery, but they tell you to take it easy. But at 6 weeks, I went and joined the gym, and
Oh, okay.
I started going as little as I could, but I was showing up.
Yeah.
Like my first days at the gym, I was putting in maybe 5 minutes at a time,
Mm-hmm.
just because one, I had just undergone major surgery, but two, because I was starting from having no stamina and
Yeah.
being really overweight. Be body acceptance in a healthy way. I think you shouldn't be blind to the way your weight can impact your health, but I do feel like you should find a way to love yourself and be healthy mentally, because I also feel like it's extremely unhealthy to hate yourself for being overweight, especially like for people who are overweight for health conditions. Like I know that certain people have a lot of excess weight on them for different health conditions. Like what good is it healthy for them to hate themselves because of a health condition that's making them overweight? And it's like, I think people are beautiful and healthy at different sizes. I think you can be healthy at different sizes. I do think being overweight can cause health issues. I don't think it necessarily makes you unhealthy, if that distinction makes sense. I know you don't might not agree with it, but if the
Yeah.
distinction, it was never that I hated myself or that I hated fat people, and it was like I I was big and I was trying to learn how to love myself at that point. It wasn't that
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the one putting those standards on me. And it's the society I grew up in that just that time where it wasn't okay to be overweight. Like now like we were talking about, we've got this movement of, body acceptance. And it's like, I didn't have that. Like it was that pressure that was put on me that made me feel unworthy. Like I'm a very like friendly person. I'm not very extroverted, but I'm very friendly and happy. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I see people, I smile and wave, or I, make small talk. And when I was big, I was no different. I would go out, like, checking out at the grocery store with the cashier. I would try to make short conversation, and I just remember, like, many times, like them not even making eye contact, or I would say something and I would just be completely ignored. Or
Huh.
I remember people just avoiding me in general. Like no one would hold doors for me. One of the biggest things I notice now, like I will have essentially men just wait at the door so that they can hold it for me.
Ah.
Or, like people are way more open and like look me in the eye and like smile at me. Like I just can't like speak enough about like my mental health difference. Like just the step by step things I've done to address my health have gotten me literally from a place of suicidal self harm,
Mm-hmm.
just so much self hatred from what I was experiencing from the pressures of trying to look a certain way, to now, truly loving myself and having the life that I always envisioned in my head and wanted. Like I've taken so many things, little steps here and there, step by step, and I've like clawed my way to this point, and I'm very proud of that. And like,
Hello, welcome to my podcast. In which one Joe's Tooth. I am Joe's Tooth, and I'll be giving away to Kara. Today's episode will be about weight loss and surgery and body image. Kara was 370 pounds at 24 years old, and 2018 got surgery for gastric bypass. A year later, got surgery called a panniculectomy to remove excess skin from weight loss. I know you are not in a good mental health place, coming out of a bad marriage and having a kid. How do you balance mental health and physical health? Because getting gastric bypass surgery is the first step, but you still have to put in a lot of work to achieve a healthier way.
right, definitely. It's what I've always focused on is even before I had my bypass surgery, I was kind of stuck in this depressive state, like constant. And it like started with small things, just realizing like, hey, like certain things are making me unhappy. And I like tried to start addressing those like one by one, and eventually got to, hey, I'm at an unhealthy weight. I had a lot of excess weight on me, and that was always something that I was trying to address. And I had been suggested to have a bypass when I was 16 at first, and I was
Wow.
like, no, I don't want to go through a major surgery at 16. And all the experience I had seen with weight loss surgeries were with older, not like elderly, but more like maybe people in their 50s or 60s who go through the surgery. And so I didn't feel like it applied to me, even though it had been recommended by my doctor. But after, trying for years on my own to diet and exercise and just not having success, after I went through my pregnancy and my delivery that was pretty intense and scary, that's when I was like, well, if I'm having this happen and I'm, not able to address the weight on my own, maybe surgery is the answer. And I looked around online on like Instagram mainly. I found accounts of girls who were closer to my age who were able to see, their success stories with weight loss surgery. And that's what propelled me to say, hey, it could work for me. It's not just for, people in their 50s and 60s. It can work for people my age.
Mhm.
And um, really seeing how my weight impacted my pregnancy and specifically my delivery, where I felt like my son's life was at risk at that point. It felt like I was just, I was at that point where I was like, I need help and I want help. And,
Mhm.
having a young child, I wanted to lose the weight to be more active and be a better, mom in that case. And so that's why right after I had him, he was born in March of 2017. I had my bypass of January 2018, so before he even turned one. And it was really, you lose the weight really quickly. And so I lost most of the weight in about 18 months. You lose the majority of
Whoa, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Fast.
And I I believe I got down to because I started, my highest weight was when I was pregnant. I was about 375 pounds. And I got to, I think, around 175 by 18 months post op.
Whoa.
And that's when I started experiencing pain from the excess skin because it was just uncomfortable and I had a lot of it in my abdomen. And that's when I went in for my paniculectomy and they removed 6 pounds of skin off of just my stomach.
Wow.
And it's crazy because obviously my weight wasn't just on my stomach, so I have excess skin in a lot of other places too, but it obviously was mostly in my stomach area and it was still 6 pounds. And that I think really helped also with my body image, removing that excess skin because my bad body image really came from more just, environmental stuff from just growing up kind of before, body positivity was a thing. Like, nobody was really accepting of bigger bodies when I was growing up. And so I always saw stuff like right when Facebook was coming out, I would see posts with bigger women and comments saying, you should go kill yourself.
Oh my
And
god.
that's the type of environment I saw for myself. And so I just had this internal monologue of like, I'm not worth anything because I look like this to people. And it wasn't that I felt that way about myself. It was that I felt like that's how everyone perceived me. And then that's just how I was treated. And that's just, my experience. And so, especially after my paniculectomy, where I was able to get that excess skin removed and I had lost all this weight, I think was a really big turning point for me because I was feeling a lot better physically. And that was the really big help in really addressing some of those mental hurdles. Because after I started feeling better physically, then I was like, well, I've still got all these things that are making me depressed. Why am I depressed? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I upset? And I was able to address, my poor body image, and I started realizing why I viewed myself the way I did, and why I had such a poor body image, especially from that environment, like I was saying. And it was like that healing process of like one by one taking down like the core problems that were feeding into like my depression. And it's crazy because it's like after I was able to start feeling better physically, that's when it was like, okay, well, I got down the checklist and now my weight's not an issue. Why am I still
Mm-hmm.
upset? And so I think that's when it was like, oh, it's not because I'm fat. It's like being fat is not an issue and that's not why I'm depressed and that's not a problem. It's just, that perception that had been placed on me by society and the environment that I grew up in. And
Yeah.
so I think
Well,
that really helped.
so now let's go back a little before we start again. Is the mic being covered by the thing that's holding the phone by any chance? Because sometimes you like go in and out a little bit.
It's not, but it might be. It might be either my Wi-Fi or like there's fans going on. I can hear my AC from my neighbors.
So let's go back to, I guess, body image because to kind of you, so you have like the fat version of you and you have the skinny version of you. How come you went the route to lose the weight versus the route of just like accepting your body weight as is?
I At the point I was at. especially with seeing how severe my weight impacted my health through my
Hmm.
pregnancy. That's why I wanted to address losing weight. And it's not that I wasn't trying to accept myself as I was, because I really was working on that before I lost the weight, but it was more so seeing the severity of what I went through my pregnancy that made me want to lose the weight as well as work on my body image. Because starting halfway through my pregnancy, had hypertension and would go into the doctor's office a lot. Then through like delivery, I was blacking in and out, and then my son came out not breathing and didn't breathe for eight
Oh my gosh.
minutes, and it just it made it feel more important for me to lose the weight because of that. To me, it was like this guilt of like my weight caused these issues,
Okay. Yeah.
and it definitely was compounded things, but it was like I after experiencing that was like I definitely want to address the weight as well as work on, the body issues and the mental health.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm like a little cynic about like fat people and then like losing weight and such, and like I think you're a good person to like talk about that because you've been in both worlds basically. So like you mentioned before that you were trying to lose weight and you couldn't do it, so you needed the surgery. Like looking back now, were you really trying at the time, or were you kind of like bullshitting yourself and you thought you needed the surgery and like you needed that help to help you lose weight?
I think I think there was a couple things feeding into why I wasn't successful without the surgery. One was definitely my mental state. I used food to cope. I would binge eat
Yeah.
all the time. And I would binge eat and use that to cope because I was
Oh no.
environments where, I wasn't happy,
Mm-hmm.
and that was an acceptable way to cope. And like especially growing up, I was isolated a lot by choice and a lot just because of the environment I was in. And I didn't have a lot, but I did have food.
Yeah.
So I would eat, and that was one form of comfort. And I think that was a big issue for me, is just my emotional eating and my binge eating. I think that inhibited me from losing weight like I should have before. I also noticed looking back after I lost weight that I just was not very active growing up. I didn't play sports. I wasn't involved in anything. Um, I was more involved with like music, and I didn't have any like one-on-one kind of mentoring of like getting me to a better spot in that
Mm-hmm.
way. And so then as a young adult, when I was trying to lose weight, I just didn't have stamina. I
Mm-hmm.
I would go to the gym but couldn't do much because I didn't have muscle, I didn't have coordination, like it was just like that combination of things. And so after surgery, I was basically starting like from ground zero of trying to learn how to exercise and be more active. And I noticed, especially like moving forward after the weight loss, of just like how badly I needed to develop like just different muscle groups because I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't have them. And that's kind of something that as feeds into I have really bad back problems now, and we've been talking about that. Like I went into the chiropractor because I started this new job where I'm at a desk a lot, and
Say you got the surgery and it helped you lose the weight, but isn't it kind of a tricky kind of surgery because like I feel like it's more mental for you because like you could get the surgery but like be better a little bit like the short term. Like if you don't like control like your binge eating, you're just gonna come back to exactly the way you were before. So like was there like a mental um, preliminary I guess to the surgery and like I guess maybe a real talk with you like you can get the surgery but like you gotta be dedicated to it or you're just gonna like all of this would just be a waste for you.
right, yeah, they even the process to have the surgery, at least where I went, they had a psychiatric evaluation, and they basically like ask like, well, what have you tried, and like, are you prepared for like the changes in your diet you have to make, because you have to basically learn a new way to eat
Mm-hmm.
because you've altered your stomach. Uh, and I took it very seriously because I don't like surgery. Like it wasn't a quick
Mm-hmm.
decision for me. Like it's a lot of healing, and people have that idea that weight loss surgery is the quick fix and it's the easy way, and that is obnoxious to me because I'm like, what's easy about like surgically altering an organ of your body and then relearning how to live with that? I don't feel like that's easy for anybody. And the weight might easily come off, but that's because you're restricted on just portion mainly. And so restriction on your portion only lasts, for a little while. Like I said, the majority of your weight comes off within the first 18 months to 2 years post
Mm-hmm.
surgery. And that's for any weight loss surgery, is that first period is where you lose the most weight. And then after that, you have to have established the habits and the diet to support, your lifestyle moving forward. And when I went into it, it was basically for me like I was like, this is my like last chance. Like I knew it wasn't, but I was treating it like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going into this saying, I've got to make this work because this is such a major thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like knew what I needed, and I knew that it could work. And I think that hope made me more dedicated after especially seeing people that I could relate to more on Instagram. And that's why I started my Instagram, is because seeing other girls my age was really what drove me to be so dedicated to it, because I was like, this can work if
Mm-hmm.
if you do the work. And so that's why I took it so seriously. And I think my major key to success was you are cleared for exercise 6 weeks after surgery, but they tell you to take it easy. But at 6 weeks, I went and joined the gym, and I
Ah,
started
okay.
going. I started going as little as I could, but I was showing up.
Yeah.
Like my first days at the gym, I was putting in maybe 5 minutes at a time,
Mm-hmm.
just because one, I had just undergone major surgery, but two, because I was starting from having no stamina and
Yeah.
being really overweight. So I went in and I said, I don't care if I only go 5 minutes, at least I'm here. I made it. And
Yeah.
tomorrow I could do six, and the next day I'll do seven. And that's where I started from. And I was very dedicated with that because I knew that the surgery would help with the weight and the weight would come off because of the surgery. But I knew that the exercising in that portion of it was going to be what helped me moving forward to be successful with it. And the diet change wasn't a huge diet change as far as what I was eating. I had to cut out after surgery, like sugars and a lot of carby things, because I started to get, I would get sick. I still get sick from eating like sugar and stuff now.
Huh.
Um, but before I had surgery, I was already eating like high protein, low carb. And I had been doing that since I was really young, because when I was 8, I was diagnosed with insulin resistance and pre diabetic. So the food I was eating didn't change a whole lot besides basically completely cutting out sugar. As before surgery, I would eat good, and then binge, eat good, and then binge. And then after surgery, it cut out that binge and then made it so I couldn't eat those sugary things that I could eat before. And then so I was like, okay, my diet's, kind of taking care of itself. Then the portion control is what led to the, calorie deficit,
Mm-hmm.
which will help with the weight loss. But then I was very focused on I've got to establish this, you know, exercise routine. And that I think is what really drove me to be more successful with it.
So the cynic in me is saying that like could you have used a diet that you got on after the surgery beforehand and just stick to it? But like just hearing you talk, I feel like doing the surgery, yes, it does help, but it kind of also like resets your body in a way that it made your diet more possible to do it because like it shows that if you do eat less, you do lose the weight. So it's kind of like, I mean, it makes sense. Like you eat less, you lose the weight.
Right.
But
No,
now, but now the question I kind of have is that if you're working out and like when you work out, you do need calories and like you, like getting the surgery, you're eating so little calorie, but if you're working out, you need more calories. But it isn't kind of almost a slippery slope because you also don't want to eat too much because it can almost, I wouldn't say ruin the surgery, but it can kind of like I know working out is good, but like if you, let's say you eat like 2,000 calories and you stop working out, but your body still wants that 2,000 calorie thing ain't gonna work out, and then it's kind of like a slippery slope in that sense.
it definitely is because that's something I've struggled with because I did focus so much on working out that in the beginning when I was still losing quite a bit, I would have workouts where my Apple Watch would tell me I was burning 800, 900, 1,200 calories in a workout. And with the size of my stomach after surgery, they tell you that your calorie intake should be 1,200 calories.
Okay.
So it's hard because you can only eat so much at a time,
Mm-hmm.
just like size wise. Then you can only eat certain foods. And a lot of the foods you can eat after surgery aren't super calorie dense. So it's like you're eating little rabbit foods
Mm-hmm.
and then burning a lot of calories at the gym. And so I had to start learning how to integrate different things to help me. Like, I, especially if I'm being very consistent at the gym, I will eat like every 2 hours, but it's like I'm eating 200 calories, 300 calories at a time. It's like,
When you say your diet, are you basing your diet based on that you are working out and like I'm assuming you work with a nutritionist, or is it more like you just need 1,200 calories just to like live for the day normally, not a normal, not working out adult.
for me, I basically base it around if I'm working out or not, just
Okay.
because with the size of my stomach, I'm not eating a lot of calories in a day anyway. So I
Mm-hmm.
know if I'm consistently working out, I know I'm going to start feeling sick if I am not compensating that by eating more and more frequently just because my stomach's so small.
Yeah, I do know like I obviously I don't work out, but there's something that's weird about in the working out community that like I know people would say like the less calories you take and the more you burn, you lose weight. But there are
Mhm.
sometimes saying that sometimes you have to eat more calories and you lose more weight. Like it's like this weird. It doesn't make sense, but it does. I don't. I'm sure you can talk about it more, right?
Yeah, it just really depends on like what you're eating and what you're doing in your workouts. Because with, let's say, I really like the stair climber, which is mostly just cardio. So for
Okay.
cardio, you need to eat carbs to give
Mm-hmm.
you energy. So if I'm doing a lot of cardio at the gym, I try to add carbs into my diet, which I have to be careful of because a lot of carbs will make my blood sugar drop and I will feel sick. So I have to find different products that will help me integrate carbs but not drop my blood sugar. But then there are times where I'm more focused on my weight training and I'll try to incorporate more protein so that I know that I am able to, build that muscle with the weight training that I'm doing and add the calories in the protein way instead of the carb way. And then there's times where I'm just trying to do a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I understand the surgery, but like as a doctor, I'm also like concerned about really the person if they're wanting to put in the effort to do it because like you just mentioned like you had like great story that did work out, but I wonder like what's the percentage of people that did the surgery and did not put in the work, and they just thought, oh, like now I'm good now, I can resume my normal eating. But like there's like the whole mental capacity to it. So I wonder, like I'm a little concerned about the surgery because I feel like you might just fall in your old ways and you just go back to the way things were. Like people
Mhm.
don't really change over time.
Well, and that's the thing is there are a lot of stories for in that exact case, and I know people personally who have had the surgery and not changed their diets, and they are
I don't
exactly where they were
know.
before. And it is what it is, and it's like ultimately those are their decisions, and but that's why I think I took it so seriously because I knew that it was like you do this and you make the changes or you're not going to get what you want out of it. And I was like, I'm not about to be doing all this and going through surgery just to end up right
Mm-hmm.
back where I was.
So let's like go on like a controversial topic right now. So I'm sure you know about like there's whole like fat acceptance movement and like curvy and all that. But like, what is your opinion on it then? Like, do you think people are just like, well, first I'll express my opinion and then you can agree or disagree. So I think people are much better now than ever. And instead of them wanting to put in the work to like diet and exercise, they just rather move the goalpost to like accept me for the way who I am. Sure, they might not really have any health problems at the moment, but weighing like 50 extra pounds is just not good for anybody, especially in the long run. And I feel like you should do something about it instead of blaming society on everything. Like, I don't think it looks good. I think they should just put in the work themselves instead of just accepting it because accepting it, I think, is very easy to do. Versus a diet where it might take 6 months, a year, 2 years, the consistency to see some changes. So do you accept that people are just not wanting to put in the work to lose the weight? Like, what is your whole opinion on the whole acceptance movement?
I think honestly that health is relative. I think I do think that there are unhealthy things that can come with having excess weight, but I think there are a lot of unhealthy things that skinny people do that make them unhealthy in other ways, and I think it's all relative. And I I feel like there should be body acceptance in a healthy way. I think you shouldn't be blind to the way your weight can impact your health, but I do feel like you should find a way to love yourself and be healthy mentally because I also feel like it's extremely unhealthy to hate yourself for being overweight, especially like for people who are overweight for health conditions. Like I know that certain people have a lot of excess weight on them for different health conditions. Like what good is it healthy for them to hate themselves because of a health condition that's making them overweight? And it's like I think people are beautiful and healthy at different sizes. I'm not saying that being extremely overweight is the healthiest, but I'm saying that I think you can have a relatively healthy and normal life at a bigger size as long as you find health and happiness in that, if that makes sense.
Uh, I mean, I'm gonna respect your opinion, but I will disagree on it. I'm surprised you have a different stance on it. But let's kind of bring you. So let's say your 21-year-old self before the bypass surgery was, let's say she was here now, would she have, would that Kara have gone through the bypass surgery then?
Would I have gone through the surgery at that point? I think I would have, only because I put so much importance on how I looked, and that's what was making me unhappy. Was I was so stressed about how I looked that I felt so bad about it, and I was like, I would do anything to fix that.
Well, I'll ask you a question then. So do you think skinnier people look better than fatter people?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think it's all relative. I mean, I'm attracted and think bodies are beautiful at a lot of different varying sizes. I think there is a line though, like being too skinny can have its health issues, and
Yeah.
being really overweight can have its issues. And I think it's more about finding healthy within reasonable expectations. Like I said, I feel like if you're unhappy about your weight and you're overweight, then yeah, lose some weight and maybe you'll be happier. But like ultimately, your health has multiple factors that influence it, and how you feel about yourself is a big part of it. I think I would have been healthier at a bigger size had I had that self love to take care of myself more properly. I think I would have been healthier even at a heavier weight, just with more self love and self care, because I would have done different, treated myself differently. I would have acted
Hmm.
differently. I would have done different activities. I probably would have been more active and probably been a little bit healthier. Would I have been my healthiest at a bigger size? Maybe not, but I would have been healthier for sure.
If you were healthier, would you maybe not be fat then? Because being healthier means you're losing the weight.
Mm,
Hmm.
I mean, I also think fat is a relative term.
Yeah, but when I say fat, I mean like normally, like I get like people are like 10 pounds overweight, fine, 20 pounds overweight, 30 pounds, like fine, I get it. Like food tastes great. I mean, I also haven't, I lost the ability to swallow, so I haven't eaten food in 8 years, but like food is great. It tastes good and it's like always there. And you can have like everyone has their favorites and sweets and all that. I totally get the food and all of that. I think people just need to like learn how to self-control about it. Like you are substituting short-term happiness for long-term happiness. 'Cause I feel like most fat people are not really happy about themselves, so they eat to like fix that unhappiness. If you're like 30 pounds overweight, fine, but I feel like once you reach the 40, 50 pound mark where I just think like, okay, maybe you should like look at it and be like, because it's hard to lose the weight, so like I feel like the closer you are to the goal is better. That's like, oh, I should stop eating desserts and all that. Like my parents are fat, and it, I just feel kind of disgusted that they'll eat like a second dessert, and I'm just like, I get it, it's good, but like I feel like if you're in a much healthier weight range, it gives you more happiness over if you just eat a donut. It's very short term. Like you don't really remember your last meal. Like you don't remember your meal that you had a week ago. But like you remember your weight from a week ago. So I feel like the weight is a more contributing factor to how you feel. And also, I think it's hard on the body too to be 50 pounds overweight. I think, like if I gave you a 50-pound vest right now, you'd be like, holy shit, it is so heavy. But then the people that just walk around it every single day not realizing it is heavy. And I think it's like people would blame society and all that, but I feel like you can control yourself. Like I control myself with my diet. Like yes, I'm skinny, but like if I start like I'm not that I'm insecure that I'm gonna get fat or anything like that. But I feel like I notice when I'm gaining weight, like I don't want to be like I'm anorexic or bulimic in any capacity. Like I'm healthy, but when I feel like I'm gaining weight, I'll limit the intake of how many calories I take, and I'll go back to where I was before. 'Cause I know the more weight I gain, the harder it is to lose it. Get it from talking to people, so I control myself with that aspect. I'll do say that maybe I'm a little privileged, I guess is the right word, with health, is that I can kind of lose weight, but I'm also conscious of it because the body sucks. That I do know that there are people that would like not eat anything at all, but then the problem is that the next meal you eat will be really heavy, and your body be like, "Oh shit, he didn't eat for 12 hours. Like I have to take more calories in." Where it's more over time, you have to like get a good rhythm for your body over time, and then your body will be like, "Oh, he's not eating as much, so I don't have to do as much work." I feel like if we have to train our bodies, and people are just training the bodies the wrong way, and it can lead to catastrophic problems.
Yeah, I don't disagree that there, if you're overweight, there could be issues with, your self-control or your motivation, but you know, I stand by, like, I feel like you can be relatively healthy. And like I said, I feel like it's all relative. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like, because it's not if you're fat that overeating is your only issue. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, I think you can be healthy at different sizes. I do think being overweight can cause health issues. I don't think it necessarily makes you unhealthy, if that distinction makes sense. I know you don't might not agree with it, but if the
Yeah.
distinction makes
I just feel like you could just be healthier. Like you might not have any health problems per se. But I feel like you could just be healthier. And I mean, I also think skinnier people just look better. Obviously, I don't want you like skin and bones either, but I do generally see most people that when you see a weight loss, they do look a lot better. Except if there's times where, like, let's say they're on drugs or some cancer or something where they lose the weight really fast, then you can tell like something is happening. Like if you lose it
right.
naturally and like put in the work, I do think most people feel better, but it's also hard to say because work like fat people are usually kind of miserable in a way. So like when they're working out, their self-esteem gets better over time, and it kind of shows not only in the weight loss, but maybe like in their whole, like their energy and the way they look and the way, like maybe they dress better and stuff. So it's like it kind of like it's not only the weight loss game, but it's also like so many other things that helps them look better too. And I just promote wanting to people to be healthy and people have only one life to live. And
Right.
I do understand like food is really good, but like I want you like to look the best the way you can look now. And it's like also don't listen to society because I don't think it's pretty toxic. Like you have to like listen to yourself in a way, like because like one fat person is usually surrounded by other fat people. And it's like no, like I want you to be healthy and good, and like I want you to be able to walk a little bit and such, not be like tired because of yourself. Like I want you to embrace your life and be like I'm not asking you to be in a marathon, but like just be like healthy, like and I don't know.
Yeah. See, no, and I agree with that, but in my head, the way I see that, it's more self-care more than like weight centric. Like I
Mm-hmm.
think even when you were talking about when people go to the gym and focus on that, like that's all mentally, like all mental. It's
Mm-hmm.
all, the way you view yourself and the way you take care of yourself. And there, like, I think you can still carry a little bit of excess weight and have really good self-care routines and take
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself in a way that makes you, a healthy version of yourself, is I think what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So let's talk about yourself because that surgery is only like good at the surgery and stuff. So would you, after surgery, I feel like the doctors are kind of your like trainers and such and like you gotta do the, like are you saying now like you are your own discipline?
Uh, will you ask that again? Right.
Yeah, like are you your own discipline in terms of
Hmm.
like you
I
just
see. Okay.
like I have to go to the gym. I don't know how often. Well, let's say 4 times a week. Like I have to do it. Like how, if I don't go today, I have to go tomorrow. Like, like if you miss one day, like you're gonna like you don't want to go downhill. Like so. So the question is, are you your own discipline?
Yeah, yeah, I basically make promises to myself and say, all right, we're gonna do, so many workouts per week, and if we can't do it this day, we'll do it this day. And I move my schedule around, and I plan my day around the time that I need to be at the gym, or um, I pack my bag before I go to work and have it with me. And even days that I'm working, 10, 11-hour days, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to be ready to get my workout in, or do I need to change my workout to, fit what I'm doing through the week? Like days that I am working really long days, I focus on more cardio and like just getting my body moving, because when I'm working long days, I'm, sitting at the desk all day and just, I'm like, I just know I need to move my body.
Yeah.
Whereas like, if I, have a little bit extra time and I haven't worked a super long day, I'll do shorter cardio and focus on like a longer weight training session and just, focus on that. So it's definitely like I discipline myself and, make sure I'm holding myself accountable to
Hmm.
what I've promised.
I mean, I'm surprised I'm not seeing you at the gym right now, like try and do two things at once, you know? Or just, I
No,
appreciate
we
you coming here.
we go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay. Okay. I mean, you still have a lot to juggle. Like you have your work, that's a lot, and then you have a kid, that takes a lot of time too. And then if you have a relationship, that takes a lot of family. It's like, it is a lot of work to do. I mean, big props to you for sticking to it. Like I didn't know it is a lot of work to do. And like, I don't really have any mental problems, but I did know like binge eating and could probably lead to other addictive personalities, something. So big prop to you for like battling all of that, plus your weight, and like I guess as you as a woman with society standards too, like have so much like compounding you. So big prop to you for like handling it all.
Well, thank you. I
Hmm.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of negative comments, but one comment I have seen that I think is interesting is someone said, "Yeah, it's great at everything that she's lost weight, but she's fat phobic." And I'm like, I don't feel like that's true. I'm like, if I've done anything to appear fat phobic, um, I that was never my intent. And like, I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
comment because I'm like, I was fat.
Yeah. I mean,
It's like
I can kind of understand what he was trying to say, but like, yeah, I think any phobic kind of got too extreme a little bit. You know, like
mhm,
at the end of the day, you just want to be healthy.
mhm.
Like that's really it. Like, well, I mean, ignorance
Yeah,
for one.
it was mostly just me wanting to address my health after going through such a traumatic experience after my pregnancy. It was never that I hated myself or that I hated fat people, and it was like I was big and I was trying to learn how to love myself at that point. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that I, I wasn't the one putting those standards on me. And it's the society I grew up in that just that time where, it wasn't okay to be overweight. Like now like we were talking about, we've got this movement of, body acceptance. And it's like, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Like it was that pressure that was put on me that made me feel unworthy. Not that I hated myself innately or that I thought people who were big were off, because I was one. So it's just, that's one comment that I think is pretty funny.
Yeah. I kind of try really hard to not be fat. So, but like since you had the journey, like what is the first thing you notice being skinnier that like really hit you?
One instance in particular that I remember very vividly, when I would go out, like I'm a very like friendly person. I'm not very extroverted, but I'm very friendly and happy. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I see people, I smile and wave, or I, make small talk. And when I was big, I was no different. I would go out, like, checking out at the grocery store with the cashier. I would try to make short conversation. And I just remember, like, many times, like them not even making eye contact, or I would say something and I would just be completely ignored. Or
Huh.
I remember people just avoiding me in general. Like no one would hold doors for me. One of the biggest things I notice now, like I will have especially men just wait at the door so that they can hold it for me.
Ah.
Or, like people are way more open and like look me in the eye and like smile at me. Like it's it's obviously a more positive experience, but it unfortunately just in my head solidifies the fact that I was treated differently when I was
Ah.
bigger. It was
Yeah.
like I was ostracized, and I was this outcast, and like people didn't even want to look at me. And I'm like,
Huh.
that's frustrating for me now. And it's like I should have been treated the same when I was bigger. I should have gotten, the door held for me. I should have gotten the friendly conversations because I deserved that then too.
Yeah, it almost kind of reinforces my opinion that skinnier people do look better, but I'm curious if you're getting like the pretty privilege that was happening to you. Like, is
Oh,
getting,
yeah, I think so. I mean,
yeah,
I
like,
can't ever be tell for sure, but I definitely feel like I think especially because I'm a redhead and redheads are more rare, we're like 2% of the population. I
okay.
think now that I'm considered more attractive and I'm a redhead and I think I've got this, definitely like a little bit of the pretty privilege and I can definitely tell it especially with men and it's a little obnoxious.
I mean, go ahead and embrace it. Like, I'm sure that improves your um, self-esteem tremendously. Like, I don't get
Oh, I
that.
definitely take advantage of it when I can.
Hell yeah, of
I'll def
course.
I'll definitely take the free drinks when I'm out. You know.
I wouldn't blame you at one bit. Like, go for it. Like, you worked hard for this. Like, go
I
in,
did
embrace that shit.
definitely.
Oh, yeah. Just like, so what is your greatest accomplishment with your weight loss journey then? Like, or
Hmm.
is it like everything basically an accomplishment for you? Yeah.
I just I think I just can't like speak enough about like my mental health difference. Like just the step by step things I've done to address my health have gotten me literally from a place of suicidal self-harm,
Mm-hmm.
just so much self-hatred from what I was experiencing from the pressures of trying to look a certain way to now, truly loving myself and having the life that I always envisioned in my head and wanted. Like I've taken so many things, little steps here and there, step by step, and I've like clawed my way to this point, and I'm very proud of that and like the mental journey that I've made, and like I am super happy, especially from the body image perspective as well, because I realized last night at the gym as I was leaving, I'm like, I don't even think I've weighed myself in
Oh,
like a
yeah.
month.
Okay, okay.
And that was something that I used to obsess over is knowing how much I weighed and how much I've lost and how much I need to lose and where I want to be. And I'm finally at this point where I not only in maintaining this weight that I've been at, but it's just like I'm not constantly thinking about it anymore, and that's just leaps and bounds from where I was, and it's just created so much freedom for me. And I mean, obviously, it's because like there's so much mental energy expended on wanting to be different and look different. And now that I've addressed all that, like I have that mental energy to put into really taking care of myself and getting me and my son to this lifestyle that I've worked so hard for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just like talking to you for the past hour or so. So we were kind of like talking about like healthy and unhealthy, and like you then we were talking about the self-acceptance thing. Like I asked a question before if we brought the 21-year-old Kara now, would she have lost the weight or not? I don't think you would be able to achieve the mental clarity you have now if you didn't lose the weight because it's not really the weight. Like you said, like it wasn't really the weight that was the problem. I mean, it was. I think it's like a variable to the problem, but I think all the other
Absolutely.
steps you took, losing the weight has helped you over it. So it's not only the losing the weight, but it's also like the discipline. You're going to the gym, and I'm sure you're eating better. Eating better helped a lot in ways. Like I feel like shit eating KFC versus a smoothie. That like the discipline I think really helped. That I think maybe you were able to just focus on something that helps a lot too. And then like now you're talking about like guys like hitting on you. So I think it's like a combination of things that has helped you create a better mental health state. So like yeah, being losing weight is good, but it does a lot more than just losing the weight. A lot more for that mental health. Like going to the gym is really helpful mentally too. And I think people just don't see that. They see like, oh, you should lose the weight and like you'll be better. I think losing the weight will definitely help with your mental health. It won't help all the way, but I think it's a very great start to it. And
Absolutely.
at least you can, and then like you said that like being fat wasn't the only problem to your mental health with a lot of other things, but it'll also be good if you can eliminate fat from a variable so you can focus on the thing that actually might be the cause of it than just,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, you definitely hit it, and that's why I talk so much about my mental health on my platform. Because for me, yes, I lost a lot of weight, but it's like my mental health was what was gearing my weight and, the other factors in my life that were making me so depressed. And it's like if you can put in the self-care and the dedication into that self-care, like even if it's not necessarily into weight loss, if it's just about figuring out how to care for yourself, like that ultimately was what helped my mental health the most, was like losing the weight and doing those things taught me how to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what ultimately made me start feeling better, is just learning how to take care of myself.
Yeah, and then look at you. Now you're thriving and you're benching and doing cardio. And I mean, I don't know any of your gym accomplishment, but you're doing really well. Like you're in shape. You have gym you said 3 days a week, right?
Yeah, currently
I mean,
my
that,
workload's gone up, so I used to go quite often. I used to be able to go about 6 days a week, but
oh my
now
God.
now I work a little more.
But no, related to people that don't go to the gym at all. Like here you are doing the work, with a full-time job and single mom, I think at the moment, having a kid, like, yeah, like, big props to you for doing it. I don't know how you do it.
It's a lot of discipline. It's a lot of time management and discipline.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing in discipline, and I think something I feel like your story is a more rare kind of story, like something within you change, maybe chemically or something that you had to put in the work. I think if anyone to put in the work for anything, they can achieve it. Sure, you can say gastric bypass, it's kind of a cheating-ish kind of way, but like with that being said, you still have to put a lot of work into it and something changed within your mind, like, hey, we're dedicating all our energy to this thing. It's either this is gonna work or it's like death, like you don't want death, you wanna live.
Right. Right. You want to thrive.
Yeah, like this. So like a last question for you, like do you ever find yourself in your old ways or do you just like just snap out of it and just stick to the new Kara?
You know, the farther I get into, my maintenance, because I'm going on, oh geez, I'm reaching, because 2018, we're almost gonna, January of 24 will be 6 years since my
Yeah.
bypass. And so I'm over 5 years post-op. And so it's like I'm getting farther and farther away from mostly the mindset I had. And so I, you know, back early after surgery, there were occasionally times where I would want to slip into my old ways, like whether it be mentally or like maybe
Yeah.
dieting or,
Your comfort
falling
zone
off the
basically.
wagon at the gym. But, the farther I get into maintenance, the more it's like I feel so much better now. And it's like that pull to want to do those things is just less and less. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't really fall off anymore, and I don't really, binge anymore, and I don't really eat like crap anymore, because it's like I just no longer have that pull and that desire, because like I feel so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I remember how it feels to do that stuff, and I'm like, kind of made me feel like crap. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't really want to feel like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how you say like the way that it used to make you feel would be really good, but like now it like makes you feel like shit. So like
Hmm.
it really had changed completely. Like you don't want
Well,
to go to
yeah,
the care.
it's that addressing my self-worth and, putting in that self-care to give myself things that will make me feel better. I didn't have that. And that's why I think the surgery was so beneficial for me because it gave me that crutch to lean on because I didn't have that self-worth to take care of myself appropriately.
Yeah, I'm gonna close it about what I was just thinking like I wonder if it's not really the surgery that helped. I mean sure it helped, but maybe like the support system afterwards might have helped you a little more that because you said like you were lonely a lot. So maybe the support afterwards has helped you and like at least like get you on your feet a little bit and then once you had like a good foundation you were able to like I guess fly away, you know? I wonder that helped a lot too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of mine, my journey, I feel like was just that self-discipline aspect. I had some support, but it was more so just me wanting more from myself, I think.
I mean, whatever way you did it is clearly working for you, and I have nothing for you but props for sticking to it and looking great in whatever wish you are in right now. And I mean, I hope you continue this path to a very healthy future.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say? Promote any words of wisdom, the winning lottery numbers? Well, mic is all yours.
Let me get my crystal ball. Hold on. No, I think just what I always say, like, and we've talked about it a little bit already, but like your own health journey is so relative, but I think focusing on your mental health and self-care and finding what works for you in your unique, lifestyle and environment and just learning how to love yourself and properly take care of yourself, I think is the best way to find health and happiness, whatever that path is.
Okay, so thank you, Kara, so much for giving me your time next busy. Thank you everyone for listening and watching, and I'll see you everyone next time. Peace.